Hey, welcome to RetroLogic. I'm Dan Caporello. I'm here with the old crew. We got Sam Wagers, and we got Spider Shannon, Eno?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Got it.
See, I know you guys. I know who you are. We are, unfortunately, as I hate to say, we are Johnless tonight. No John. He had an in-law incident, as I hear. But I'm sure he's doing fine. He will join us. He will join us on the next one because he's excited to talk about Star Fox. We're talking Star Fox. Who doesn't love Star Fox? Yeah, so that's what we're talking about this day. Guys, let's just chat about what's going on in our lives. Sam, what have you been playing lately? What's been going on?
A lot of Monster Hunter as of the last 2 weekends. Really just kind of
Wilds?
flying through it, yeah. We had a little bit of hearty discussion about it in the Discord, actually. Just kind of explaining my thoughts on it. It feels very modern, I think, was my takeaway. Mm-hmm. That is a criticism. That's not to say like I hate it or that I'm not enjoying it. Obviously, I didn't stop playing it. And it really is just me kind of realizing, oh, this is what video games are like for a lot of people that don't play retro stuff. And especially like me, when I play new stuff, it's usually Nintendo, which kind of has a bit more of like the old philosophy of game design. But yeah, this like lots of cutscenes, lots of being led along by the game to kind of get you through it efficiently. But fortunately, there is still a Monster Hunter at the end of the story mode. The game finally opens up a bit, and you can just take quests and hunt monsters and do what you want instead of this weird, listening to the NPCs talk while you ride your mount to the next story objective.
That sounds to me like you're ready for Xenoblade, Sam.
Well, that's Xenoblade as well, really.
That almost makes me wonder, because a lot of games will open up and they'll be like, oh, have you played this game before? Yes? Okay, we're not going to hold your hand. Have you not played this game before? Let's go through this story mode tutorial. Like, other games have done that. So I'm wondering why Monster Hunter didn't just let you say, like, oh, you're a Monster Hunter veteran? Yeah.
Most of the people playing are new. Or even if they're, it's a very small fraction at this point who is pre-World.
That makes sense.
So, and even World is definitely, it is a modernized Monster Hunter. That's not all bad, but it's series change over time. They adapt to what people apparently want because it sold lots of copies.
Yeah, it's a series that I probably would like Wilds if I had an opportunity to play it, because I have tried Monster Hunter several times and it's just not my jam. It's just not my speed. I don't know what the problem is. It's just not for me. So I probably would appreciate the hand holdiness of it. That being said, as someone who's been a fan of series who went sort of mainstream, and then it kind of gets ruined, not ruined, but like,
I think it's
not
still
for the
Monster
fans.
Hunter at the end of the day. Like,
Sure.
Ultimately, especially once you get through the story, it's just Monster Hunter. And right now, I think I would agree that it's too easy. It's actually been interesting to me to see that seems to be a pretty unanimous opinion. Like a lot of just major people reviewing this game are like, yeah, it's kind of easy. And I don't know if that's the effect of like, this is their second Monster Hunter game and they know what they're doing now. So it doesn't feel as hard as the first one, but it does seem like it's on the easy side. But the case with these is always, they add the most challenging stuff after launch. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not too worried about that. It's still Monster Hunter. It's not a series like, say, Fire Emblem that's just gone in a different direction from what I want from it. Because there are ones like that too.
And at the end of the day, we want Capcom to succeed as company.
Well, they're doing
entity.
great.
Yeah,
they're doing great lately. I mean,
for
Resident Evil's done well.
Yeah.
Street Fighter's done well.
They got all those
Monster Hunter's
collections
biggest
coming
it's
out on
ever
Switch
been.
now, which are just, I mean,
Yep.
they could do no wrong right
if
now.
only they could do better with. Well, to be fair, Mega Man 11 is the best-selling Mega Man now. That was recent news. It's actually kind of sad that 2 million is like the record for the series.
Yeah.
And also,
I actually wanted to check that. I did. I think check it because I was wondering if Battle Network 4 beat it if you combined both versions. I don't think it does. So
wow,
I'm still waiting for them to put Cannon Spike on some collection, on something. It can't. I want it. I want to play it. I played it when I was a kid. I love it, but I'm not paying Dreamcast prices for it. I'm just not. Like they have to put it out for me.
Fighting Collection 3.
Fighting Collection 3.
It's not Cannon Spike and Techromancer.
It's so not.
I'm sure everybody will pay for that.
Yeah, I mean, some people will though. I mean, it's to the people who know what it is, they'll get the word out. I feel like it's only a net positive for them to throw those games on Switch. I don't know, or on modern consoles. I don't know, whatever. Shannon, what have you been up to?
Let's see here. I had just been chipping away at my Tales of Graces, trying to get through it or as much of it as I can before Xenoblade Chronicles X comes out. That's my Monster Hunter right there. I'm still hunting monsters, and I'm in a mech, so there, in that game. Other than that, been playing, slowly working through Dokapon Kingdom. Sam convinced Tim and I to give it a shot, and actually it is a blast. And so we've done a few sessions. It is a lot longer game than I expected, but in a good way. We're having a blast. We thought we were doing pretty good, and Sam kept warning us that the computer was going to just go all Dark Lord and destroy us, and that is what's currently happening as we speak. When we ended it, the computer finally went over, and now is just making us lose all our towns that we worked so hard to free from the monsters. But yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. I had no idea that there was like a job system that you like gain experience, that you like, it really is an RPG combined with I mean, it's basic RPG, but it's still an RPG mixed with this board game, and it just works really, really well. And it's cute, it's fun, it's delightful.
Awesome. Yeah, good deal, Dokapon Kingdom. I haven't really done a lot of like gaming outside of like what we're talking about today, which is Star Fox, and then just doofing around in Tears of the Kingdom with my son, who's like very, very much into Tears of the Kingdom right now, like crazy. All he talks about is Zelda, so
nice,
it's kind of cool. He talks about it so much though that I have to be like, bro, like cool out, like chill out a little bit, like, you know. But I get it, like when you're into something. Pokemon's still fun. I fired up Hearthstone for the first time today because Pokemon gave me the like card game itch, but wasn't quite as sophisticated as I am used to or as I want. And so I fired up Hearthstone and did some of the like story mode stuff there because it's been so long since I played. All my cards are like now like long, no longer in standard mode, and I don't really feel like building decks there where I don't know what's going on. So, but that's been kind of fun. Trying to get back to Skies of Arcadia after beating Star Fox, and like sitting down to a console has been kind of challenging just in this season of life we're in. And it's going to get more challenging because we are all going to have to go back into the office now, which is a whole sad story. Yeah. Like because I work for the state, it was a government agency. And so we're all being made to go back into the office for absolutely no good reason. So I don't know. I have options. We're going to figure out what we have to do because I don't really want to drive 2 hours every day to an office. So that's kind of a bummer. But that's life. We're gonna work through it. Yeah. Let's jump into Prices Retro.
Let's do it.
If this is the first time you're playing Price is Retro with us, I'm going to tell you all how it works. I'm going to list off 4 or 5 games, and your job is to guess how much that lot of games is worth. I'm going to give you the console is for, the condition, whether it's complete in box or whatever, and it's all based on pricecharting.com's prices. The other hosts are going to guess the prices. You at home can play along and guess the price. And then we all have our own lists and we all guess. And then at the end, whoever guessed the closest the most times wins the show. We also have some AI characters. We have... Oh gosh, who can recite that for me?
we got the dinosaur. The dinosaur guesses the retail price at the time the games would have been new. We have
his name is Leonard.
Leonard, yes. I can never remember his name. We have the robot, and the robot guesses the average price. Takes all of our prices and averages them out, or our guesses and averages them out. And then we have the ghost, who always guess 300.
That's right. And we got to beat these guys.
That's right.
Yeah, and we want to win individually. So there's a lot of at stake here. The fate of our pride is at stake. So we need to up our game.
The fate of humanity.
Really, honestly, we're rampaging it.
It's true. Yep, the Rampage Trio.
Good. Well, we're all set to go. I'll go ahead and go first, I guess, since here I am. Great. So the first game is Yoshi's Cookie for the Super Nintendo, loose. Yoshi's New Island for the Nintendo 3DS, complete in box. Yarn Yoshi Amiibo, Mega, green color. Mega Yarn Yoshi, loose, not complete in box. So I'm not going to do that to you. And Yoshi's Island Super Mario Advance 3 for the Game Boy Advance, loose. My favorite gaming joke is at that game is Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Advance 3.
Right.
I love it. I love crap like that. All right. So who's gonna guess first here? Shannon, go ahead and guess first.
All right. I have 180.
All right. Sam?
I've got 218.
Shannon is very, very close. My total is 187.
Nice.
Yeah.
As long as one of the Rampage didn't.
I know, yeah, they might have taken...
Well, the dinosaur doesn't do amiibo, so...
Oh, bummer, okay. Ha!
I think you're safe.
Suck it, dinosaur. Yoshi's Cookie is loose, is 15. Yoshi's New Island for 3DS is 15. Mega Yarn Yoshi is 140.
Yeah, I knew it was up there.
I didn't. I was like, oh, it's probably 40, 50. Nope. That sucks. My daughter wants one of the little Yarn Yoshis. She wants a blue one. And I'm like, I don't know that I want to pay $25 for like I love you, but I'll just give you the little plastic one and you'll just be happy.
Right.
And then
tell her to learn how to crochet. She can make one.
Oh, yeah. Yoshi's her favorite, so nice. She definitely should get around to that.
I actually have a very old Yoshi plushie. I think it came out like when Mario 64 did.
Oh, you have the Mario 64 one?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I used to have the Mario one of those with the flying cap.
Yep.
I love that set. Yeah. And then Yoshi's Island Super Mario Advance 3 is 17.
Okay.
So I thought the Mega Yoshi would be a curveball, but apparently you guys are way more on top of it than I am.
Yeah, I remember seeing not that long ago, I was actually visiting family downstate from where I live, and I stopped into a store and they actually had one, and I was like, whoa. And then I looked it up on price charting and I was like, whoa.
What were they asking? Do you remember?
It was, I want to say they were asking like 120, 125, something like that.
Steal.
Yeah, as it turns out.
Well, I mean, it released at a higher price, and that scared people off. So
yeah,
then it became rare and more expensive.
I mean, how well does that work? I mean, it like takes up your entire Switch screen and then some.
I mean,
like
the cereal
to
box
scan
works.
You don't have to guess where to place it.
That's right. You just place the whole thing there.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a little dot on the bottom, like with the with the little ones. There's a little circle on the bottom, so you know. But
Right.
I've never had one, so I don't know. There's also the giant Pikachu amiibo. You know, I mean that has a giant pancake-sized base. So
That's true.
I hope you're aiming right. Like, it's good. Sam, you want to go next?
Sure. I have a list that I believe I made last week when we were talking about some good old third-party and other 3D platformers from that bygone era when other companies besides Nintendo still tried to make 3D platformers.
Right.
So I have a list of Xbox 3D platformers.
Yes, let's go.
They are all complete in-box Xbox games. So starting off, we have Scalar, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, Voodoo Vince, Whiplash, and Vex with 2 X's.
Okay, Whiplash is amazing. Have you guys played Whiplash? That's the one where the rabbit and the weasel are stuck together
back in the day, but I never had an Xbox.
That's the one where the rabbit and the weasel are stuck together.
I do remember seeing that now that you say that.
Yeah, that's such a cool concept. I just kind of I don't know if they executed it very well, but just the concept alone, sold.
They did it better than Astral Chain. I said
it. Yeah, you heard it here first. That's a hot take. All right. Shannon guesses first on this one.
I guessed first on the last one, but
oh shoot! Okay, you're right. I'm going this way and that way. I have a whole thing going on with the screen placement, and then I forgot my whole system. I'll guess first. Then I'm going to go 80 on this one.
It's interesting. I have 85.
Oh,
now you're both quite close. The total is 7620.
Ooh,
gotcha by 4.
Robot splits the difference. Dan takes it. Dinosaur is way high. He guesses 250.
Oh yeah, because those were
a piece.
Brand new games when they came out. $60, $50. Yeah. Yep.
Should have gone Prices Right rules.
So
should have gone
breakdown. They're all pretty close together.
I gotta grab Whiplash, man.
Scalar 11.19. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger $10.04. Voodoo Vince $19.99, the highest in the list. Pretty close behind it. Whiplash $19.44.
Yeah,
and Vex $15.54. So all less than $20.
Yep,
very good. Some of those games, fit into a weird space where they're not expensive, but if you go into any random retro game store, you're just not going to see them. On some of those games, it's like that kind of game. It's like demand is so low that the prices don't really increase, but it's also kind of a rare find. What was another game like that recently where I was picking it? Oh, it was Mod Nation Racers for PS3. I've been collecting PS3 for probably 3 years now and have never seen a copy. And then I just walked into a store and saw it for $10 and I was like, yeah, obviously I'm going to buy a Mod Nation Racers. But it's just those kind of weird games, man. There's got to be some kind of category of that sort of cheap and rare. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think this really speaks to the fact that the 3D platformer craze was pretty much over,
right?
And nobody was buying these when they came out. Well,
I just appreciate,
but I feel like the last one that hit any noticeable measure of success was probably Tak and the Power of Juju.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sly sequels were still coming out at this point, but it had proven itself, I guess. The new IP was not going anywhere.
That genre though was still sort of going strong. Is a 6th gen, I guess, 5th gen or 6th gen. And I appreciate that they pushed the ideas to the limit in that gen. They give Mario a water jetpack. Good deal. All right, Shannon. Oh wait, who won that one? I won that one.
You won that one.
Yay!
All right,
Shannon.
Let's see if we all tie it up or if we Or
at least if
Dan
we tie
takes
it up, that means the AI didn't win. Right?
Yeah,
That's right.
It's us versus them
There's
now.
no wins.
That's right.
Now.
So I think the dinosaur is already going to be out of mine because I didn't even think about the dinosaur when I did my list. And these are all peripherals.
Sick.
He doesn't do peripherals.
So
You don't have those prices.
I love
cut
peripherals.
off.
Yeah.
all right. First one up. I'm throwing a little bit of a curveball with this first one. First one up is the Game Boy Startup Disc for the GameCube. Just the disc loose.
Yeah, buddy. Now we're talking.
Second one is the e-reader loose for the Game Boy Advance. Third one is a Rob the Robot loose.
Oh man. Oh gosh. How do you even?
Yeah, I
Because
honestly
there's
have
so
no
many.
idea.
There's so many like little things that could be with that or not or what. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's got to be some kind of weird average on price charting. Okay, go for it. That's all good. It's all good.
Yep. And fourth one is the U-Draw game tablet for the Wii, the black. Apparently there was a black and a white, and they are worth different amounts on there. So the black one.
I have a white one. You're stumping me with that last one for sure.
Well, it's my turn to go first.
Yeah, go. I got my number.
Despite my suspicions that one of these is going to be like astronomical, I'm just going to kind of split the difference and say 200 even.
All right.
Mine's significantly higher than that. Mine's like 370. I'm going to go 370.
370.
I just, I don't know what this black you draw thing is, but I just have a gut feeling about it for some reason.
All right. The total actually is 324.67.
Let's go.
Well, that goes to the ghost.
Well, it goes to the ghost, I think.
No!
Yeah.
300 guess. Strikes again.
Dang it, Ghost. He hasn't won in a while. Freaking Ghost.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. The startup disc is 137.50.
Mm-hmm.
The e-reader is 56.12. Rob the Robot 121.05.
E-readers are more expensive than I thought.
Yeah. They've gone up because I went to look into getting one because I've always wanted to get one and I'm like, oh geez, they jumped up because they were. I mean, it doesn't seem that long ago. You could get them for $20-$30.
Easy, yeah.
Yeah. And now it's getting hard, and that's not even including any cards, which are also shot up in price.
You can.
I
You can
don't
print,
have too many valuable cards.
You can buy printed cards.
Yeah.
Like they sell them printed, and you can just scan the games and stuff.
Well, that's the
probably
amazing
what
thing
I would
of
do.
it. It's literally printed game code. So
That's
Right,
probably
it
what I
works.
would do if I were to find a piece of hardware. I would just print them because there's no way I'm going to keep paper around. Just
Right.
no way. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the game tablet that was throwing you off is just $10. The white one is worth $5 loose,
I want a
and the black one is
now.
worth $10.
Now I want a black one, dude. That sounds sick. I will say it's a cool little piece of tech. My daughter, who's like an
sounds like
artist, it's just like a little drawing pad. And
Didn't it come with like a Mario Paint-ish type?
So it's nowhere
Needed it?
near as good as Mario Paint,
Okay.
but it does come with some painting software. There's several different ones. There's also Pictionary. There's also like an actual video game, kind of like Kirby's Rainbow Curse, but not as good. I have a couple of those games, but it's a cool little piece of tech. Worth picking up if you like weird stuff.
So
You
this,
have a
this is a
daughter who likes to
tangent,
paint.
but remember Amiibo cards? They seemed really short-lived.
Like
The-
those Animal Crossing ones.
The Animal Crossing, I think, was the only ones that did that, isn't it?
But like, I'm actually kind of wondering, would it have been kind of cool if they like basically did the e-reader thing with those? Like, you opened up a pack of cards and there were like Game & Watch games on them, and you could just scan them.
That would be cool.
You could probably fit that on a little NFC chip.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah. 'Cause I remember those are the ones that were actually like practical to use on the e-reader, because I think it was like a single card to just play like a Game & Watch game.
Yeah.
And you could have, a stack of them, and it was like a Game & Watch gallery.
Yeah.
You could probably
That's a
do
great
something kind of interesting with Amiibo cards, because I'm sure you can fit a decent amount of data onto, especially if you had like an app that sort of, was like a firmware for them to use.
I mean, at this point, you wouldn't even need to have the data on the card itself. The card could just be an unlock,
I mean, that's true, right?
But it is cooler when it actually... It would be cool
if it was actually... Well, and it would be future-proof for when, the eShop goes down. You would actually still be able to load this data onto your Switch.
It would probably work. Well, we did see, I believe they...
because the e-reader was so successful, they should totally do this.
They should do that again.
I don't know.
I think it was just released today that the Switch 2 will have the NFC capability still. So,
well, if it's backwards compatible, you got to have Amiibo support. So,
sounds good to me.
Yeah, NFC chips cost nothing, so it's not driving up the cost of the system at all.
No. That's why. No, you can do it with your phone now. I mean, it's just built into everything we have. All right, should we do a trivia card real quick?
Oh, we got it. Let's do it. Wait, who won?
Oh, yeah.
Dan wins. You had the closest guess on my lot. So that's the tiebreaker, is the closest guess settles the tie.
We were all close. That was pretty good.
Yeah, we're getting good at this. We got to come up with some harder lists.
All right. Well, I don't know if this is all that hard, or at least this first question, but what is the name of the witch in Banjo-Kazooie responsible for the kidnapping of Banjo's sister, Tootie?
Grunty.
Well, is this a trick question? Is it Gruntilda or is it Grunty? I think her full name is Gruntilda.
Yeah,
and that's what's listed here. I would have accepted both.
Sam, you would have been right. I would have been crying.
Second one, this one might be a little harder. What was the code name for the Kinect during its development?
Ooh.
I feel like I remember hearing this, but I don't know that I ever would have just been like, oh, it was and just be able to spit it out.
Codename We Wanna Be.
Right.
I don't know. Lizard.
That would actually be pretty cool.
Oh, wait. Is this related to that, like, virtual kid?
Oh, yeah. Totally.
What was his name? Milo? Was it like from Project Milo or something?
Was that like a Peter Molyneux
I kind of forgot about that. That you're not on the right track, which is unfortunate because that would have been cool.
I just pulled something out of the depths of my memory.
I forgot about that though.
Nice.
So it's Project Natal.
Natal.
I feel like I remember hearing that name, but maybe I'm also just misremembering. I definitely wouldn't have pulled it out.
My wife was just pregnant, and so that name means something totally different to me right now. I'm just like, let's move on.
All right, let's talk Star Fox then.
Let's talk Star Fox. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll talk Star Fox. So this is part one of a two-parter episode. We're going to cover every officially released Star Fox game, and some little bonus content as well. And so each of us has some experience with all the games or some of the games, and so one of us is going to sort of lead each discussion with our own experience. And we're going to go sort of chronological. We were going to fully go chronological, but John decided to ruin that by not being here for the first episode. So today we are actually going to cover, just to switch over to my other screen here, the original Star Fox on Super Nintendo, Star Fox 64, Star Fox Adventures, and then we're going to skip Assault. We're going to do Assault next week, and we're going to do Command. Command was... what year was Command? I have all this written down. Right, Assault was 05, Command was 06. So I feel like that's close enough where we can kind of flub it a little bit. So you'll forgive us if we're not totally accurate on what we're talking about as far as release dates go. But Star Fox, Star Fox 64, Star Fox Adventures, Star Fox Command is our topic of discussion today. We're going to do kind of a round table. Hopefully it doesn't go too long. But we're mostly talking about like our personal experiences and a little bit of history, so it shouldn't be too cray-cray. But kicking us off with our Star Fox discussion is Shannon, who has been digging into the original Star Fox and Star Fox 2, but Star Fox 2 wasn't officially released until 2017. So that's actually going to be the last game we talk about in this series. But for now, Shannon, if you want to take it away, Star Fox from 1993.
So I remember seeing this game, must have been in Nintendo Power.
Muted. Oh, maybe I'm muted. No, sorry.
All right.
My headphones were down.
So. I remember seeing, stuff for this game in Nintendo Power. And the Star Wars nerd that I am, was like, ooh, this kind of looks like space battles and everything else. I'm here for that. And I remember renting it and being disappointed.
Bummer.
I was initially disappointed. I'm like, I'm not in space. I'm on this planet and something was not clicking and I was not like figuring out, which is, I look back, I wasn't a young kid either. Like I was a teenager, like a young teen, when this game was out. And so I don't know why, but I just could not figure it out. I don't think I spent a lot of time on it. And I remember talking to my buddy and he's like, dude, no, like those space battles are in there. You just got to get past the first level there. I was like, oh, okay. So I remember giving it a second chance. Figuring out, once I figured out that you really need to master when to spin, like spin really is important in that game. Because it really negates a lot of damage. Like even if you're about to get hit, if you spin, you have a pretty good chance of not getting hit.
He was right.
That's right. That's right.
Even though he doesn't know what a barrel roll is, we forget him.
And so I prefer, even going back and playing it again this past weekend, spending some time in it, I do prefer the in-space levels to the on-planet ones. And the difference really is that in most of the space ones, you are basically a gun turret. You're not seeing your ship. You're just kind of seeing where you're aiming and firing. And I kind of prefer that, if I'm honest. I do know the vector-ish graphics actually kind of threw me off a little bit as well initially. Now I think like, yeah, this is actually pretty rad. But I remember thinking, okay, this is like arcade graphics, from like a while back even. And just because the Super Nintendo, I guess I was like, the Super Nintendo was like the ultimate in graphics, and nothing could possibly beat these amazing 16-bit graphics. And I was like, this seems kind of weird. Like it's geometric shapes and, but I did get in it. I did get into it. I don't know how many times I probably rented it before I do remember, I feel like at some point I rolled credits because then I was like, oh, 6 levels. That's kind of a short game, and put it away. And, it wasn't until I don't know how many years later that I was talking to somebody about it. And they're like, well, dude, that's like just the first run. And then you actually go in and do the second run, and there's a third run. And I'm like, oh, and it gets harder each time. That makes sense. That's why on the map there were those other paths. But it never clicked to me. I saw the credits, and I was like, all right, well, there's that. But it is kind of an interesting game. The characters, actually considering how very little they're in it, and they only repeat the same things. Like you could still kind of get their personalities a little bit, and that was kind of cool.
It's the kind of thing where like not just to jump off of that point for a little bit. It's the kind of thing where like if you were sold on the concept, like the art and the characters in Nintendo Power, like if you were sold on that. you were probably going to have a good time, because if you were just going in for the gameplay, that's not it. That's
Right.
like it was not a great time in those days.
No.
Like it was very visually cool, but playing it is laggy and weird, and
it's like it, but it also it's not bad, but I mean, once you play through those, like you feel like you've seen just about everything, and some of the later levels, I've never actually gotten past I tried during this weekend, and I still couldn't get past Andros there, but maybe I just need to get better again. But
it's a hard game. Like
it really gets hard. And there, but I did watch a complete playthrough too, just because I was like, I am kind of curious just to see it all the way through to the end. And some of those pre-rendered backgrounds are really, really cool, especially as you get later in the game. It gets less blandy. At one point, though, it did feel like I was just playing asteroids, because I'm literally just asteroids coming at me, and I'm blasting them and turning them into smaller asteroids. And, so it does kind of get a little repetitive in that way. And I think that it does help. I know everybody has a hard time trying to figure out what a good modern Star Fox game what really should look like and entail, and you do feel like maybe you need to move a little beyond the on rails shooter stuff, but for a first outing, it really is it's still a lot of fun, and you could spend your time in a much worse way in much worse games.
I mean, you could beat it in 30 minutes.
Yes,
if you know what you're doing, 30 minutes, you're in and out, easy levels.
Right. Yeah, if you know exactly where to shoot, if you watch somebody who really knows the game super, super well, and they just have it memorized where every enemy comes in on screen, and you're just right there, just, as they're coming on screen, you're already firing at them.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to watch.
But you're right. It is at its heart kind of just an arcade game. I mean, because the point is to go back and get better scores and do the harder levels, because it's short. It's short as heck.
Yeah, and you get
this was a time where games like that were still a lot more common too.
Big time. Yeah, and popular.
Oh, absolutely. Too. And your score really seems, unless I'm wrong, unless I'm missing something, your score is really just tied to how much shield you have left at the end of the level. Correct?
I don't know specifics. I would imagine it's a combination of that and how many kills you got.
Maybe.
In some way.
Yeah. It does seem like it's important to keep up with your shield to get higher scores, though, for sure. Which makes sense. But I couldn't really tell if your squad mates, their scores also, or their shields also counted towards your score, which is a possibility. Although you can really only do so much. Although I did keep getting yelled at that, hey, it's me. Why are you firing at me?
Right? That's what you meant.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing about this game that really sells it, like if you take all the sort of auxiliary things about this game, character and story-ish, the pre-rendered graphics and the music, like it's a really good time. Like there's a lot to be had here for a fan. With the caveat that actually playing it in 2025 is not great.
Well, I mean, it feels like going back and played the old like Star Wars arcade games, right?
Right, exactly.
Sorry, vector graphics type.
Yeah, it didn't age quite as well as like Super Mario Brothers first outing.
My experience with the first Star Fox came very late. I don't think I actually played it until NSO. I know it just never a game I had on the Super Nintendo. I had played Star Fox 64 when I was pretty young, when it was current. So that's always kind of been an issue that I have, is I can't help but compare it to 64.
Right.
Well, I think a lot of people have.
And I think the comparison is not favorable. Well, really, I mean, just in so many ways, and almost every Star Fox game kind of has that issue. But I think in so many ways, Star Fox 64 feels like the game they were trying to make when they made Star Fox. And that
Exactly.
speaks well of it. It's just like, we bit off a little more than we could chew doing all this at the time, and we had to make some compromises. And by the time of the N64, they didn't have to make those compromises anymore. That said, I think if you compare it to other stuff at its time, this is still pretty unique. You have arcade games doing something similar.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you're going to say, would I rather play this or say, like, I guess maybe the next closest thing would be like Space Harrier on the Genesis.
Yeah,
I would still pick Star Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the N64 really did revolutionize this game to the point that they finished Star Fox 2 and then said, nah, let's just put this on the N64 instead. And then we didn't see that crazy, game in any official capacity until the SNES Classic.
Because it's amazing that they could actually get. I mean, now with the benefit of us being able to actually play Star Fox 2, and we won't go into it deep here because we're going to talk about it later next time. But it's amazing what they were able to add in and still have it run on Super Nintendo hardware.
Yeah, they had
with Star Fox 2. Yep,
they had the FX chip too to help pull it off. And yeah, if you go play it on NSO or on the SNES Classic, it is really impressive as a Super Nintendo game. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but that's for another episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. So let's jump, since we're kind of there. We'll jump into Star Fox 64. Yeah, I mean, Star Fox 64 is the behemoth of this series. It's the game that all other Star Fox games are compared to,
for better or worse.
And rightfully, but rightfully so, because I don't know, I don't know about where this game sits for you guys, but it's my number one N64 game. It holds up probably the best of any N64 game. There's no janky camera. The graphics look sharp and great, and it's fast, and it plays exactly how they designed it to play. Like, nothing about this game feels like it was compromised for the hardware. In fact, it feels like it was enhanced by the hardware, since we're used to the Super Nintendo version. With maybe a caveat given for the multiplayer, which feels a little baked in at the end anyway.
I think the controller plays a big part in it too. That
big time.
I don't even think you always realize, but being able to play with a stick instead of just the directional. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really does make a big difference, I think, in the game.
It's huge. Yeah, honestly, the D-pad's probably the biggest thing about the original Star Fox that is detrimental to the gameplay. Besides some of the lag, but I mean, you can get around that, but your thumb, I don't know about you guys, but playing the original Star Fox starts to hurt my thumb after a while, because I'm like, I got to go this way really fast, but I can only press it so hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, Star Fox 64 I woke up early for school almost every day for an hour before I had to get up, just so I could get in a round of Star Fox 64. Like, that was the game for me. With the rumble pack and everything. And I remember all the hype leading up to it. I remember finally getting it on close to launch day. And it really honestly lived up to what we sort of imagined Super Nintendo Star Fox was going to be. It sort of was like, oh no, this is what we wanted the whole time. And it totally delivered. And I don't remember what the official language is, whether it's like a reimagining or a remaster or whatever of the original Star Fox. Reimagining is probably the language they would use. But I'm glad they did it. I mean, I don't know what Star Fox 2 would have done to Star Fox 64 or whatever, but it seems like they made the right choice back then, I feel like. Yeah. And Star Fox,
the benefit of hindsight helps a lot too. That over time I've looked on it a whole lot more favorably. I do value games that hold up to multiple playthroughs, and Star Fox 64 passes that test with flying colors in a way few other games do. And I think a lot of the criticism all Star Fox games have, except for maybe Adventure, is that they're too short. But I think it really, when you start to look at it carefully, critically, it's like, well, a game like Star Fox 64 is like, it is all killer, no filler. Like
100%.
I mean, I guess there are certain missions that aren't as great as others, but I think the amount of variety you get in a short playthrough, the ability to get through the game quickly, and it's really like, and this is high compliments coming from me, like it's sitting down and just playing through Star Fox is like sitting down and playing Star Fox 64 is like sitting down and playing through Mega Man X for me. Like it's just like every time it's great.
Mm-hmm. And you can play it differently every time too. You can try a different path, try a different secret, and if you're acquainted with the game well enough, you can intentionally choose hard path, medium path, or zigzag around, which is a really cool feature.
I care a lot about difficulty, and I think it's another one of those games that does it so well. Like you don't even realize your choices are influencing it. Mm-hmm. But like if it's your first time and you're just a little kid or whatever, you can fumble through the game okay. Like you might not make it to the end, but like it's not like a super punishing game.
No.
But if you want the challenge, it's there, and you get rewarded for learning what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, the reward for getting it's like the high like gold or whatever, platinum on the hard mode is you get to, I guess you have to do it. Oh, I don't remember exactly. But if memory serves, if you beat hard mode, like platinum every level in hard mode, you unlock characters running around, like Fox runs around with a rocket launcher in multiplayer mode instead of the ships. Which is cool. so funny for like an unlockable, like it's just silly to see them running super fast.
Era when they just did stuff like that. This is
exactly
when games had big head mode cheats.
Yeah, for sure, and know that's what they were doing.
It's all fun.
Yep. Which I got to go back and unlock it in my cartridge because I did that. I did it when I had my original cartridge, but I have to do it in my current cartridge, which is not. I probably haven't even plugged it in a long time. The thing I will say about this game, as far as like preservation goes, and this, I don't know how far reaching this complaint is. This could literally just be me, but I cannot play Star Fox 64 on the Switch. And
I've heard other people say that though.
And I can't play it through an emulator. It suffers dramatically. If you have any controller lag whatsoever in that thing or screen lag, you can tell immediately. It's abundantly clear because, I mean, maybe that's just me because I know that game inside and out, like from the back of my hand. So when I jump into it, I know how it's supposed to feel and what it's supposed to do. And the Switch N64 emulation is it's not unbearable, but for Star Fox specifically, that game has to be like pixel perfect timing wise.
Well, I mean, the N64 is supposedly not the easiest thing to emulate as it is.
Right.
And so even Nintendo doesn't have it down, and so
I'd be curious to find a copy of a Wii that has it downloaded and see what that's like. I'm curious about that.
Well, I remember issues, I mean, not particular with that, but even like Mario Kart 64 on the Wii had issues. Like you would all of a sudden you'd be like double speed, like in some levels and stuff like that. I at least for me, I would have that. Just weird emulation issues. And so I don't know.
To speak to that, from my very limited knowledge of how that works and just watching guys on YouTube talk about it, for the N64, you really need to be building a custom emulator for each game in order for things to run properly.
It's crazy.
they did that for Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on the GameCube. And those are kind of the definitive versions of those games now.
So they must have done that then. Well, no, because the 3DS are basically remakes, aren't they?
Those are total remakes, yeah. And I'm going to talk about 3DS next episode because it is a total top-to-bottom remake. But, yeah, I think if you're going to play Star Fox 64, I hate to say it, but like the Switch is not the best way to do it. You really kind of got to get original hardware with a very low lag screen, preferably a CRT, to really get this game to feel properly. Although, if you've never played it before, you probably won't tell or care. You'll just be like, this is fun, Dan. What are you talking about?
I think it's still fun, but like, I do think it's noticeable. A game like Star Fox, it's always going to be more noticeable. The upside is at least the cartridge is not expensive, but
True,
I don't know what.
If you already have the game,
I think it's like the third best-selling game.
I don't know. I don't know that a CRT is strictly necessary. I haven't found that to be the case for most things.
Just a good monitor.
Mileage may vary, but I mean, typically, yeah, and it depends what your setup is too. If you can get an older like LCD screen that at least has like a direct link, so you don't have to pass through an adapter.
Yeah.
Typically, your latency is realistically going to be somewhere on the order. If you're not emulating, your latency just from the screen is going to be on the order of like 100 milliseconds.
Yeah, which is
that's
not
less
bad.
than a frame. Like it's not. If you play online games, you're experiencing greater delay just because of online stuff.
It's worse than that on the Switch emulation. So if you're emulating on like a PC, you could probably switch your settings around and make it better. I'm just really disappointed in how the Switch emulation turned out.
I am too, and I cannot get a good. I don't have one of the N64 controllers for Switch, but
I have that, and I tried it. There's no difference
because that's not my biggest issue. It's one of my biggest issues with N64 emulation on the Switch is that I hate the way the controller is mapped. Yeah. And I know you can go in and try to play around with it, but I can't find a good natural way. Now, like some games, you can get away with that, right? Like you can get away with that on Zelda, really, honestly. But yeah, there's other games
through
that just
Majora's Mask.
Right,
it's the only way I've played through Majora's Mask.
But it just some other games though just don't quite feel right. Like I have a harder time even with Mario Kart in 64 without the original controllers, but I don't know why, because that one is not horrible, but I still have a hard time with it. I just need, I don't know. Maybe it's just depending on how much time you put in those old games with the original controllers. Muscle memory.
So not to jump out too quickly, because Star Fox 64 certainly deserves its own entire episode, but I do want to get to Star Fox Adventure and Command before we are here for like 3 hours. Anything else on Star Fox 64 before we move on, though? It does deserve.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one that everybody complains is that they can't get past, but also complains when they try anything different. Then, I mean, it's what everybody's.
How many of those little voice lines are stuck in my head?
Oh my gosh!
And it's not just it's like every line.
You're becoming more like your father.
It's insane. Like,
hey Einstein, I'm on your side.
And again, it's like it did so much with so little. Like these characters really feel. I mean, they're definitely archetypes, but like that's a good thing for as compact of a game as it is.
And that's what I'm saying. Is that
a single line, you're like, oh, I know what Falco's about.
Yep. That's what I was saying. Even with the first one, it's like you really don't. It's not like you're getting cutscenes with these characters that you're growing, but it works. Just these one-liners and stuff like that, you get their personality.
So
you get so much out of it.
You know what's funny? I just thought this thought, and since we're on 64, I'll say it. In 64, he says, "Hey Einstein, I'm on your side," but in 3DS, he says, "Hey genius, I'm on your side." And I'm wondering, what did they
like? Einstein's family's like, "Yeah, no, take him out, take him out."
Or did they realize, like, wait, this isn't Earth? They don't know who Einstein is. So they changed it? Like, what were they? Is Einstein copyrighted? Like,
Einstein exists in the Star Fox universe, man.
I know. Yeah, I don't know.
It's canon.
Anyway, so we're all hype on Star Fox 64, and we're anxiously awaiting the next thing for Star Fox. And then the GameCube comes out, and we're like, oh man, I can't wait to see a Star Fox game on that. And it's a Zelda-like adventure, which is not what anybody was expecting. There is some shooty pew-pews in there as well. You're in a starship for a little bit of it. But all that seems a little superfluous. Now, I very recently went through and beat Star Fox Adventures. And so I'll sort of lead the conversation because it's the most fresh for me. And there's some there's some things that I love about this game, and there's some things that are just so baffling. I don't know, that just didn't make it out of QA, and I don't understand why. First of all, just the cultural disappointment that this game wasn't Star Fox 64 2 spiritually is worth talking about. Like, it's worth what it is. I mean, I feel like a lot of that happened on GameCube. The same thing happened with Wind Waker. Kind of the same thing a little bit happened with Mario Sunshine. But with Star Fox, I don't know how much we knew was Dinosaur Planet that turned into Star Fox, how much we knew back then. Because now we know all of that. We know that Rare was working on its own IP called Dinosaur Planet with all these fox or bear or cat characters. And then Miyamoto came in and said, hey, that kind of looks like Star Fox. You should make this a Star Fox game to help sell it. And Rare was like, okay. Or maybe they didn't want to, and that's why they split. I don't know. Who knows, really? But Rare left Nintendo soon after that, after they were purchased by Microsoft. So what the story is there, I don't know if it's out there or not, but I don't know it off the top of my head. But the game ended up being a Star Fox game, and they cut most of the Crystal content out. It was supposed to be like a 2-character game. And it ended up being almost exclusively Star Fox, with some Crystal stuff thrown in there at the beginning. And so the things that I love about Star Fox Adventure is that it is a very good Rare platformer. Like, it holds its own against things like Banjo-Kazooie and Conker's Bad Fur Day. It's a very good action platformer adventure game with really great characters and awesome scenery and atmosphere and like a cool day-night cycle and like really great varied locations and very well-designed levels. Like, it's a very competent, high-quality action platformer. Great game. Fun to play. It has some very, excuse me. That being said, it has some very weird difficulty spikes. Like, there are parts of the game where you'll just stop and be stuck because you don't know where to go. And the game tries to get you to go in the right direction a little bit. Like, there's like, Peppy and Slippy give you like a map and like where to go, but it can tell you to go to like Thorntail Hollow. But Thorntail Hollow is kind of the central hub of the game. And if you don't know what to do there, you're just lost. I beat this game with a paper strategy guide, like with the original Nintendo Power Guide. And there were points where even I was like, I read what you're telling me to do, but that doesn't make any sense. So, like, almost everybody that I talked to about this game recently, because I just beat it and I was talking about it a lot, they were like, oh, that game seemed really fun, but I got stuck here and never went back to it. So common to hear that, which is a shame because there's some really great levels, especially later in this game, that people just never saw. So that, something else I want to talk about, which is silly, but I have to talk about it, is the aiming mechanic in this game is so bananas to me that anybody who tested this game out signed off on what this is. Like, we have Ocarina of Time, where you have a bow and arrow or a slingshot, and you just, where you point is where it goes. And there's no weird shenanigans. It's just like, yep, I want to point here. The camera goes there and you shoot. For some reason in Star Fox Adventure, they were like, that's not good enough. We need to make this worse. So it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. it's almost like you're flying the R-Wing, but you're stationary. So when your control stick goes up, your reticle goes up, but the camera kind of only slightly pans up. So the reticle goes like way up in the air, but your camera like kind of stays in, like moves with it. So you never know. And if you let go of the stick, the reticle goes back to a central location. And there's a lot of finite, or not finite, but like finesse, like shooting in this game with like your staff firing thing. And it is just a nightmare. I mean, you are wielding, it's like you have a tentacle from Octodad or whatever trying to shoot with a gun in your hand. You're like, whoa, like flopping around, like, oh, I can't just keep it straight. If I let go of the stick, it goes back in center, but I have to point it right at this thing, and it goes wiggity waggity all around because the stick's not crazy accurate. So it's just infuriating. Yeah. So like, and it does have its flying sections, which are well made, but it's kind of the same thing over and over again. The flying sections are not really varied. You're flying from one of these floating planetoid broken off pieces back to the planet. And it's kind of the same run over and over again when you are in your ship. And then also spoilers if you haven't beaten it. The very end, this big bad T-Rex guy, General Scales, who they've been building up since the beginning. You get to the final boss fight for him, or what you think is going to be. You start the boss fight. It immediately stops, and General Scales is like, oh, what's going on? I'm being talked to by this entity, and you just don't get to fight him. From a narrative perspective, I mean, they did that because it's not a dinosaur planet, it's Star Fox. So General Scales isn't the bad guy in Star Fox. It's from a narrative perspective, it's suicide. It's awful. It feels so bad to get to that point and just not get to fight General Scales. Awful, terrible. Then suddenly you are sort of told this weird exposition about how Andros was behind it from the start. You jump into your R-Wing, you fly up into the sky, and now you're in the final boss of Andros that you've seen 2 other times now. The exact same fight with Andros. Right. Almost the exact same fight. And then you beat the game and whatever. So to summarize, to stop talking, it's a really, really great, rare platformer that has some very annoying sticking points. I still recommend you playing it, especially if you're a Zelda fan, because it does kind of scratch that itch. But just do it with a guide. That's my advice. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I played. I don't remember having too many issues with aiming. I do remember there being a lot of aiming challenges. I don't know if I guess my capacity for being frustrated was just higher.
Yeah,
I do remember just getting.
You know what? That's probably true.
Not knowing where to go.
That's probably true because these days I don't have as much time to redo things. Right. And I'm like, I need to beat this game.
Yeah, no, I was playing this when I was like 14 or something. Yeah. So, I had like tons of time, I guess.
Did you beat it?
I remember disliking the game, but I'm like, but I finished it. That's the crazy thing. Like, yeah, but the disappointment was real. Like, so the crazy thing is, we didn't have Star Fox on the N64. I think I'd thought about buying it at one point because I liked it. I would play it at my friend's house all the time. But because it was such a short game, I'm like, well, you know, I've played through the game more than once. I'd rather buy a new game that I haven't played before. So that was kind of always the thing. But then, like, the idea that there was going to be a new one on the GameCube, and then it was Adventures.
Yeah.
The disappointment was pretty real. But yeah, it really does feel like you can tell that it was 2 different games stitched together. Like just going from the intro section with Crystal to Fox is really jarring. And I think it almost makes it worse that the game like tries to go out of its way to justify it. Like, it's just like, at this point, I don't even care. Like,
Yep.
like there's this whole, like, and it doesn't make sense given the ending, but there's this whole, like, aside at the beginning of once you start playing as Fox, how he can't just use a blaster because, like, there's some, like, Star Trek Prime Directive thing he has to follow. And the final boss, you just blow him up in an R-Wing.
Right. Exactly. Narratively, it's a mess. But I love the characters. It's such a weird dynamic because the characters and the dinosaurs and the talking, and I love Tricky and I love him as a mechanic, but they totally ruined the narrative. Yeah.
On the positive side, I think it's one of the best looking GameCube games.
Gorgeous.
It is really nice looking game.
Yeah.
Like, Fox's fur still looks better than a lot of things today.
And the music is on point. There's a lot going for it. That's what I got to say. I feel like if you took like a really great rare platformer and just like shot some holes in it, that's what Star Fox Adventure is. Shannon, any thoughts?
I mean, I don't have a whole lot of time with this game. I remember playing it at a buddy's house. I wasn't in a position when the GameCube was out. I just got married. So I only have a smaller GameCube library, which is a shame because I love the GameCube. It's actually one of my favorite consoles. But so this is a game that I never owned, but I did play it a couple of times. But I remember being very confused. So to your point, I do not know if I knew at the time that this was supposed to be a different game that got changed. I probably learned that later on. But probably going, yeah, that makes sense now because I remember being very, very, very confused. I was like, wait a minute, this is not anything what I've ever done before in a Star Fox game. And who is this now? This Crystal and yeah, it was confusing. And so unfortunately I don't have a whole lot of time with it. It was just kind of like, all right, now hearing since then that it is a Zelda-like, it does make me want to go through and give it a shot, track down a copy and work through it because I'm a huge Zelda fan. And, Zelda during that time era was, awesome and great. And
big time,
anything else like that, I'm always up to try.
Yeah. I mean, I recommend it to people. I give them the caveats. I say, like, use a guide, but just get lost in like the atmosphere of it and the planet and have fun with the journey. And it's good. Just know that you're going to get mad. And
yeah, I've softened on it over time, I think, as the disappointment of...
Right.
You could still see it as like, this is where Star Fox went wrong, and sometimes I still do.
Yeah,
but
I can see that.
I think it's clear that there are other issues with bringing Star Fox forward into getting past 64. Although you could say it's because this didn't really do well that they kind of kept going back to that.
They went to Assault, which is...
I mean, who's to know?
Which Assault feels more like what Star Fox 64 sequel might have been.
And the weird thing is, I remember seeing Assault and seeing the ground sections just with Fox running around. I'm like, nope, still not. Just put him in an R-Wing. That's all I want. I want him in an R-Wing all the time.
They really... Now, we can't talk about Assault. So Assault's John's game. We're going to jump to Command. But just as like an aside, they still messed up the controls in Assault, if you ask me. It's kind of a sticking point for me.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it later. Yeah. But yeah, that really feels like Fox is an R-Wing running around.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that was somewhat intentional, but yeah, we'll address that when we get to Assault.
But yeah, Sam, you're going to jump into Command, so take it away.
Yeah, so Star Fox Command is... I guess I can just start with when I played the game. I was late to the DS party. But it was one of several games I went to pick up. I got my Phantom Hourglass, Golden DS Lite, That was when I finally got the system, and I think
Nice.
one of the first. It was cheap by the time I got it. So you know, that's honestly a great way to experience games, is to just adopt a system mid-generation and know what all the best games are and get them cheap. I don't knock it, especially when you're, you know, money is limited when you're a teenager and you don't have tons of money. So yeah, I was excited. I still to this day really like Command. It's a limited game. Yeah, so basically the idea is this is Star Fox with a strategy game bent. And you know I love strategy games too. It was really surprising, and I know we're not talking about Star Fox 2, but I think it was just funny to me to play Star Fox 2 and realize that that's where this mechanic kind of started.
It's really cool.
It really is basically recycled from Star Fox 2, as is the walker mode in Star Fox Zero, which we'll talk about next time. So it's really funny that I think a lot of the original ideas for Star Fox still date back to that. I think the limited aspect comes in the fact that you are, it's sort of a turn-based thing. So you draw paths. This was the DS. You had to do everything with a stylus. You draw paths to kind of plot a course for your different ships, your whole squad. And you need to basically intercept enemy fighters and missiles aimed at the Great Fox. And when you encounter that, you basically go into what other Star Fox games would call an all-range mode battle. So that's really where it does feel limited, is that there aren't any proper Star Fox levels per se. It's all-range mode all the way. There are bosses. I feel like the bosses aren't quite as memorable. There's a few. But, I mean, yeah, that's the gist of it. The tactical aspect is not insanely in-depth, but I do think it added a fun twist. Overall, I like the game, and I think it did succeed in still very much being Star Fox and adding something new to Star Fox, which I'll take what I can get, because I think the problem this series has had is that a lot of the times it tries to add something new, it just doesn't mesh. I think it overall worked, and I think if you just had traditional Star Fox levels, more like an on-rails thing, that it would have been great. The interesting thing about this game is it has a ton of different endings as well.
Oh, they're just bananas.
It is technically the end of the canon Star Fox timeline. And we get, Crystal joining Starwolf in one. We get, Fox's and Fox and Slippy's kids forming a new next generation Star Fox team, and another with Andross's grandson, who's a good guy. My favorite one is where Crystal dumps Fox and he's drowning his sorrows, and Falco, in order to cheer him up, says, "Hey, I have a great idea. Let's go be F-Zero racers." And that great. Is the ending I regard as canon, personally, just because the weird connection between Star Fox and F-Zero fascinates me.
Love it.
Yeah.
Which on that level, Octoman is in this game too. So there you go. It's on multiple levels. Octoman is one of the bosses, I believe, because they're all fish themed. That's the villains, the Anglars, who just kind of sprang up out of Venom's oceans. Another thing, just kind of bringing it full circle, just as I was kind of reviewing, I'd forgotten about this, but it went back to the Star Fox 1, voices, and there was actually a feature using the DS mic. You could record your own voice and have it become Star Fox gibberish.
I didn't know that.
And it's just little stuff like that is so wacky and fun.
I love that. I'm gonna have to do that.
Details.
We should do a whole podcast like that.
We should. There you go.
I love any game that does that, honestly. Banjo-Kazooie. I think Henry Hatsworth deserves a shout out for being one of the most bizarre implementations of that.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Star Fox Command for me, I remember really liking it. I definitely got it like pretty close to launch. I had to have. I had my DS. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is like a cool twist on the classic Star Fox formula. We're doing more strategy stuff. We're getting kind of deeper into like different parts of the lore. It is a sticking point for a lot of the Star Fox fan base lore wise. And I don't know, but I don't care that much about lore, but it is something to mention. There's a point where Crystal is like empathizing with Andros, which everybody feels like is really out of character and funny. But gameplay wise, I think it's a solid entry, fun to play. I recommend it. I do miss the on rails levels, so I agree with you there. But no real hard complaints.
It's cool to play as other characters too.
That is cool too.
That was always something I kind of wanted in another Star Fox. Was like, can I play as Falco? Just like I don't know, make it a little different. And they actually have specifically, I think Falco and Slippy have their own like special R-Wing designs. Yeah. And even Peppy, which you recruit later because he's like retired. He's a general now or whatever. He has the classic R-Wing because Fox's is now like the R-Wing 2.
Classic. So. Yep.
Yeah, I came to it actually not that long ago. I actually won a copy on Free
Stuff Friday.
Free Stuff Friday.
Join the Discord for Free Stuff Friday.
A few years ago. That's right. So a couple years ago now. And so I put a little bit of time in. I haven't been able to put like a ton of time into it, but I enjoyed what I played. I did kind of like you said, the strategy piece is not like that in depth, but at least it changes it up a little bit.
And I think that the nature too of those, having those kind of little battles is some of them start to feel repetitive. I think specifically like missile interceptions, it's like, can I just skip this? Like, it's not, once you've done it a few times, it's like, it's not particularly interesting or challenging, but you still have to do it.
Yeah. So, but
good
I mean,
stuff.
It's a fun little game. It's definitely worth picking up. And I was just going to say, and it's not expensive.
Yeah. Nice little add to the DS collection if you have one going. Just to round things out for this episode before we end, the honorable mention for this episode is Nintendo Power ran several issues long sort of Star Fox comic book from back in 93, 94. And it goes places. Like it is, you see like some deep lore about like Fox's dad and mom and him leaving home to join the academy and it goes places. So I think that you can read scans of it online. I'm sure the Video Game Archive has it, but you could probably just find pictures of it or whatever. But I recommend checking that out. It is certainly a read if you like anything about Star Fox. So that's the honorable mention for this episode. And I think that just about does it for this episode's Star Fox Talk. Next episode, we will be doing Star Fox Assault, which will be John. Star Fox 64 3D, which is the 3DS remake of the original 64 game. I'm going to be talking about that one. Star Fox Zero, which will be headed up by Sam, and then Star Fox 2, which is Shan's game. Yep. But I mean, as you heard, we all kind of chime in, so whatever. And then we'll have a little bit of an honorable mention on that episode too. Probably talk a little bit of Starlink, a little bit of Star Fox Guard. And that is that. So, yeah, a lot of love for Star Fox. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks for listening to the RetroLogic podcast. If you like what you hear, you can find us all over the web. We've got a Blue Sky account. That's me, retrologicgames.bsky.social, I guess is the URL. We are part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. So if you're part of them, you can come over and join our Discord. That link is in my Blue Sky bio. You can also go to our website, retrologic.games. And there is like all our different podcasts and our Discord link and all that stuff. And yeah, that pretty much does it. So now I'm sitting here trying to think of like a funny Star Fox line to end with. All aircraft report or something.
Something's wrong with the G diffuser.
Use the boost to chase him. God, I could go through that whole first level probably and say all the stupid lines. I guess I should be thankful. Yeah, you should be. All right, well, we'll catch y'all in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.